So they're gonna bring lunch now at 12:30.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, everybody. All right, everybody, please grab a seat. Our keynote speaker has arrived.
Oh, okay.
Come on down. And thank you all for your patience as things are a little bit disorganized today. They kind of, as you know, with live events, they tend to go off track sometimes, oftentimes. So I'm really privileged to be able to introduce the keynote speaker today. He's not only a colleague, he's become my friend over the last year or so as we started having lunch together. And then one of the things that I would tell you is this guy lives about 40 minutes from me, and he's a legend in the industry, and I knew about him for like 10 years before we ever had lunch. And so I would say we have some legends in this room right now. We have people that have been doing this for decades, written books, have done the things, the big things, and just people that have just been in the industry for years. Go meet up with them. They're actually people. They'll have lunch with you. They're not above that probably. And before I introduce them, I just want to ask, speaking of people that have done things, how many people here have been on the Nghwa board? Raise your hand if you've been on the board. Look at that. A lot of former board members here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your service. Round of applause for them all, please. So, I mean, really, to say legend is, he's one of the most influential people in the field of hypnosis. He's written, I've lost count of how many books he's written. I do have a copy of his very first book, Hypnosis, which is really cool. And he's got a few of them after his talk. If you want to come by and get one, he's got some for sale that he will happily sign for you. And boy, honestly, there's just so much. This guy's done so much, I don't even know where to go. Why don't I just go and bring him up, everybody? Please give it up for Roy Hunter.
Thank you, Jim. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me okay?
Recording in progress.
Oh.
For starters, some of you may know and some of you may not know, I was the founding chapter president for the first NGH chapter in the Pacific Northwest. Hypnosis has a rather interesting history. It goes all the way back to the ancient temples in Egypt. There were priests who did sleep work, which I fully believe was a form of hypnosis. Although Mesmer is credited with being the father of hypnosis in quite a few places. He mesmerized people, but hypnosis started having benefits in the 1800s, but entertainment was much more popular. And then in World War I and World War II, psychiatrists found that hypnosis helped soldiers overcome battle fatigue, which today we would call post-traumatic stress. And an interesting story happened. Years ago, I roomed with Saul Lewis, who was a 20th century legend in our profession. And he told me a story that blew my socks off. He said that in World War II, he was in a Nazi concentration camp, and he wanted to escape. One night, he prayed to God that he would be able to escape. And he said, Jesus appeared to him, and he looked and said, Joshua, what are you doing here? I'm Jewish. he said, Jesus replied, so was I in my last human life. And then he said that Jesus told him his prayer would be answered and that he would organize, and that he, Saul Lewis, should organize people who wanted to leave. And the following Friday, when the garbage truck came through the gates, they would become invisible, the ones that wanted to leave, and they would be able to walk out of the camp. And he said, but the guards, they'll see us and shoot us. And he was told that they would become invisible. And I thought over a decade earlier, when I read that story in a book that I checked out at the church library, I thought, that's too weird. How could that be true? Little did I know that about a decade later, I would meet the very man who was among that group. And he said after he got into the woods, he found an Allied hospital. And he said Jesus told him that in exchange for saving his life, that he would have to give his life in the service of God. So what happened is that when he found an Allied hospital, he saw a psychiatrist doing hypnosis for battle fatigue for a wounded soldier. And that inspired Saul Lewis to become a hypnotherapist. So I thought I'd share that story with you. And it just blew my socks off to learn that what I read in that book years earlier actually happened. Just, wow. And to think I would end up meeting the man who organized that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty amazing miracle. So Charles Tebbets taught that a lot of benefits of hypnosis are like modern day miracles, which is why he entitled his book Miracles on Demand. And there's an example in his class, and I have the videotape of the epileptic who was cured of epilepsy after experiencing heart therapy. And any of you who have my book, The Art of Hypnotherapy, you can see the transcript in chapter 13 of that book. So here's something that I have practiced ever since 1983. When people see me for habit control or motivation, I have them identify the benefits of reaching their goal, whether it's controlling weight or any type of habit control or motivational issue. I say, okay, let's imagine that you've been successful for 1 year. You've been at your ideal weight for a full year. We're all tuned in to WIIFM. Those are the call letters for What's in It for Me. So I will list from 4 to 7 benefits of the client, and then explain to the client that there's a simple concept Charles Tebbets taught, that imagination is the language of the subconscious. That's why we have to be careful of the law of reverse effect. If I say don't think of a dog, how many of you imagine seeing a dog, hearing a dog bark, or petting a dog? So I don't say you don't like cigarettes. I say your lungs reward you for the fresh air you give them. In addition to imagination being the language of the subconscious, Charles Tebbets also taught that emotion is the motivating power of the inner mind. So my approach is based on having the client imagine the attitude of gratitude for enjoyment of his or her benefits. And that's a good starting point. It's not the only way to help somebody quit smoking, but it's far more productive and far less dangerous than aversion therapy. In 1985, I helped a client successfully quit smoking, and at the last session, he said, "You just saved my doctor from a malpractice suit." I said, "What? How?" He said, "I saw him a year ago, and he used hypnosis to help me quit smoking. And he told me in hypnosis that if I didn't quit, lungs would start hurting and I would get cancer." And he said, my lungs started hurting a couple months ago, and I already made the decision that if I got cancer, I was gonna sue my doctor for malpractice. So don't use aversion therapy, folks. Now, here's something that I've taught clients to help them become comfortable with hypnosis. There are 5 gateways to the subconscious. How many of you have heard if you do something 21 days, you can develop a new habit? And how many people do you know who've gone 21 days without smoking and then backslide? Or 21 weeks on a diet and then backslide? And many New Year's resolutions literally go up in smoke. So repetition is like a dirt path into the subconscious. Yes, you can develop a new habit as long as there's no subconscious resistance by doing it for 21 days. Then the second method of subconscious programming is the obey or rebel button, authority figures. A for authority. People either want to obey the laws of health or they want to rebel against a real or imagined authority figure that tells them what to do. So when someone has either a desire to obey or rebel, that's a gateway to the subconscious. And it's like a paved path into the subconscious. Also equal to the authority figures is the desire for identity. As Charlie taught, we all have an inner child who loves either to belong to the crowd or be different from the crowd. We have this identity of who we want to be, and peer pressure is pretty powerful. Peer pressure creates a multi-billion-dollar cosmetics industry. And why was it throughout the 20th century that even on a hot summer day, men would wear a suit, a long sleeve shirt, and a tie? There were times where I just sweltered in the middle of summer at church on Sundays. It's like, why did we do that? Peer pressure. I like the fact that suits are no longer as mandatory in the 21st century as they were in the 20th century. So I'm comfortable talking to you with just a dress shirt. If this had been 30 years ago, I would be wearing a suit and a tie. But it looks like we've outgrown that peer pressure. Could someone hand me the water, please? Thank you.
Also just spotlight Mr. Lee.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that.
So we'll just step back.
Yep,
And
will
we'll
do.
set this here.
So it's not on the cord.
Right. There you go, I
Okay.
think that'll.
All right. I'll just go ahead and sit down. And the fourth gateway to the subconscious is hypnosis. And we pass through the hypnotic state scientifically on the way to and from sleep every night. So it's important that what we imagine before we go to sleep is pleasant. If you go to sleep replaying your failures of the day, you're putting negativity into the subconscious. So if you've had a really bad day or a stressful day, my recommendation is you either put on some beautiful music or a feel-good movie. I've done that many times during my 41 years in this profession. It's hard to believe I entered it in 1983. At the time I told God I wanted to help as many people as I could. At that time I thought, if I could help at least 10,000 people, maybe I'd leave this planet a little better off than when I came. And then when I met Orman McGill in 1986, he said, Roy, it's your life path to write books for the profession. To this day, I don't know how he knew. At the time, I didn't believe him, although he did encourage me to get this book written. And that was the start of my writing career. Little did I know that in the year 2000, a sitting member of the United States House of Representatives would give me an an induction into the Hypnosis Hall of Fame award for my written contributions to the profession. One of the happiest moments of my career, sadly, my wife was not allowed to take a photograph of me getting that award, because at that time, the founder of the Hypnosis Hall of Fame didn't want any photographs taken other than the official photographs. After she passed, sadly, her heirs threw a lot of the Hypnosis Hall of Fame memorabilia in the trash. Couldn't believe it. Robert Otto, who's the president of the International Medical Dental Hypnotherapy Association, and I tried for months to get that memorabilia after Penny Dutton Rafa passed. Neither one of us were able to get it. So a lot of hypnosis history, unfortunately, passed, and it shouldn't have. Robert Otto reincorporated the International Hypnosis Hall of Fame, and usually there's one person a year inducted. And someone mentioned the lady in Australia, the sleep talk. She was inducted. Joanne. Yeah.
Goulding.
Pardon?
Goulding.
Joanne Goulding. I got to meet her when I taught parks therapy in Melbourne in 2006, and she was very instrumental in keeping hypnotherapy legal in Australia. So, God bless her. She's done more than just a sleep talk. Okay, getting back on track to this country. We've come a long ways since I've been in the profession, because in the 20th century, a lot of psychologists and physicians called us lay hypnotists. That's because Milton Erickson was jealous of Dave Ellman. And since Dave Ellman was teaching doctors hypnosis, Erickson felt that Ellman was a financial threat to him, so he came up with this lay hypnosis stuff and taught that anyone who wasn't a licensed mental health counselor was only a lay hypnotist. So we were trashed for decades in the 20th century. And then I wrote The Art of Hypnosis and The Art of Hypnotherapy, which became textbooks at a number of hypnosis schools around the globe. Little did I know that there was a psychologist who was a hypnosis supervisor for ASCH, that was Erickson's organization, the organization that called us lay hypnotists. He was recommending The Art of Hypnosis and The Art of Hypnotherapy to physicians and psychologists. He told me that the number one question he heard was, why are you recommending books written by a lay hypnotist? And Dr. Bruce Eimer told me that his response was, read the books, and then if you have any questions, ask me. And eventually he decided he wanted to meet the author, and we hit it off as friends. It's like I was meeting an old friend. Who knows? Maybe we knew each other in past lives. But we co-authored The Art of Hypnotic Regression Therapy, a clinical guide, and that built a bridge between hypnotherapy and psychology. So, when I first became president of the NGH chapter in the Northwest, it was because Charles Tibbetts turned the HECI over to me and asked me to take it. And I said, Charlie, I don't like hypnosis politics. So I'll take your organization under one condition, that you let us merge with the National Hypnosis Organization. So we merged HECI with the National Guild of Hypnotists. And that's how the first chapter got founded in 1990. And at that time, there was division between the NGH and the Washington Hypnosis Association, which was founded way back in 1947. And Gil Boyd's organization, the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners. I wanted unity in the state. So what I did is I opened up the meetings so that we had a chapter meeting once every 3 months instead of monthly. I thought monthly was a little bit too often. That was my opinion. People can disagree with me because I think most chapters meet monthly. We met quarterly and had an average of 50 to 60 people every meeting because I invited the WHA and I also invited the ACHE to attend the meetings. And then we had competitive conferences so that 1 week Charlie's organization would have an annual conference, and the following week the Washington Hypnosis Association would have a conference. And I thought, that's crazy, we're competing with each other. So I asked if I could attend a WHA board meeting, and they reluctantly agreed. The president reluctantly agreed. He wanted to know what I was going to recommend or why I wanted to attend the meeting. So at the meeting, I suggested that we combine our resources and have one annual conference co-sponsored by both the NGH and the Washington Hypnosis Association. And then one of the WHA board members looked at me and said, "Are you trying to take us over?" I said, "No. We only need one chief." And I think the WHA president should be that chief, and you can tell me what you would like me to do to help make the conference successful. They bought it, and the following year, we had a combined conference and had over 100 people attending. And then we had successful conferences every year for several years until we eventually had a conference director after I stepped down from power. We had a conference director who overspent the budget, brought in Tad James as a speaker, and emptied the treasury of both the local chapter and the WHA at a conference that financially failed. So we never had any more Northwest conferences until Jim Kellner and Tony, what's his last name?
Good.
Bitch. Yeah. And I was so happy to see another Northwest conference. And Tony I had, that's great. Okay, getting back to the gateways to the subconscious. Hypnosis is like a paved road into the subconscious. So when I see clients, I let them know that the most common hypnotist in the world is television. Because when you go into an altered state and the actors and actresses become real people in your imagination, you are literally in a state of hypnosis. And why do you think commercials know how to pump them in? So I remember when my children were little, watching the Saturday morning cartoons, and if they saw an ad for a particular cereal while they were sitting there loading in the cartoons into the subconscious, they wanted that cereal when mom went to the grocery store shopping. So just be aware. Make sure you are not in the alpha state when the commercials come on. So my wife and I like to hit the mute button when commercials come on. I remember my grandfather, when I was little, said someday they'll invent a remote control where you can hit a mute button and have blab off TV. He called it blab off TV. Well, if my grandfather's looking in from the other side, his prediction came true. So I don't want those commercials going into my subconscious. So any commercial I don't like, I hit that mute button as fast as I can get to it. And since my wife is bedridden, she watches a lot of television, and she loves to have the remote so that she can hit the mute button right away when some of the commercials come on. Now, emotion is the most powerful gateway to the subconscious, because when we get into a strong emotion, we need to be very careful to guard the gateway of what we imagine. And a negative emotion doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a negative result. Although anger is a dangerous emotion, so is fear. But some people have made the life-changing decision for the better while they were angry? And likewise, how many people experiencing a good emotion end up weeks, months, or years later getting out of a bad relationship that they got into in the middle of a good emotion? So when we have emotions, that's when we most of all need to guard the gateway of the subconscious. So that's like an interstate highway going into the subconscious. And the easiest way to remember that is the acronym HEARD. H for hypnosis, E for emotion, A for authority inference, R for repetition, D, desire for identity. Have you heard of the 5 gateways of the subconscious? And I have shared this with the majority of my clients that I've seen through the years. And if you know about these 5 gateways of the subconscious, it empowers you to be a little more careful about what goes into your subconscious. And I believe that based on my 4 decades plus in the profession, that there have been thousands of clients who've been self-empowered. And since my goal, my stated corporate goal, is to help people attain their ideal self-empowerment and to teach others to do likewise, the name is in the title of my corporation, Alliance Self-Empowerment, Inc. I help clients make an alliance between the conscious and the subconscious. If they have inner conflicts, I use parts therapy to bring alliance to the various conflicting parts with the goal of empowering them. So my mission statement is in the name of my corporation. I have another 10 minutes. If any of you have any questions or comments you'd like to ask, I'll be happy to answer them.
Could you go over HEARD again?
H for hypnosis, E for emotion, A for authority inference, the push and obey or rebel button, R for repetition, D is desire for identity. And if you have heard of the 5 gateways to the subconscious, by being aware, it's important to guard what you imagine. And I remember when Hypnothoughts Live was hypnothoughts.com on the internet, some people were debating about whether or not there's anything to this law of reverse effect. But let me share with you the fact that one time a man came to me to quit smoking about 7 or 8 years ago. And in the intake, I asked if you had any previous experience with hypnosis. He said, yeah, I went to some man in Seattle last fall for smoking cessation. And at the end of the session, he made a joke. He said, whatever you do, if you discover a pack of cigarettes that you didn't know you had, don't light one up. He said, when I got to my car, I remembered that I left a pack of cigarettes in the glove box, and I did exactly what he told me not to do. And I said, did you tell him? He said, no, I didn't show up for my next appointment because I thought if he was that stupid, he probably wasn't trained very well. So the law of reverse effect, the reason that kicks in is because imagination is the language of the subconscious. So talked about a dog earlier, but if I say don't think of a cat, how many of you imagined either petting a cat, seeing a cat, or hearing a cat purr? So that's why we have to be careful what we say and how we say it. So when I'm working with someone who overeats chocolates, I don't say you don't like chocolate. My suggestion is you make wise choices about your food and eating habits. And like a muscle that's used is stronger with use, your power of choice is stronger with use. And I remember the first time I ever gave that suggestion to a psychologist, she literally cried tears of joy and said it was the best hypnotic suggestion she had ever heard.
Say it again.
Pardon?
Say it again.
Like a muscle that's used is stronger with use, your power of choice is stronger with use. So each and every time you make a wise decision about your health and eating habits, your power of choice is stronger. And you love your power of choice. I've given that suggestion tens of thousands of times during my career. And I've had many people say they really love that suggestion. And I won't say it works for all the people all the time, but the benefits approach that I described to you, having a client imagine his or her benefits of reaching success and imagine the attitude of gratitude, is combining the positive power of emotion into the positive hypnotic suggestions. So the result is over 50% of the people who've seen me for smoking cessation have never needed regression or parts therapy. And probably about half of the people that have seen me for weight management during my career have not needed additional work other than a few sessions to reinforce the benefits. But then when they don't succeed, I use either parts therapy or regression therapy, and sometimes it's obvious to know which to use. Other times I have to use finger response questions, and these are explained in the textbook, The Art of Hypnotherapy, which is available on my website. What I love about hypnosis is it helps people become the person they want to be. We simply have to learn enough techniques to turn the keys to help the client become the person he or she wishes to be. And usually I conclude with suggestions such as, imagine your total success becoming the person you choose to be. And so it is. And then I'll gradually emerge from my hypnosis. And in my personal and professional and spiritual opinion, I believe it is an honor to be in this profession. And it was in the mid-1980s when a minister that I frequently had lunch with said, "Roy, you're as much as a minister as I am." I looked at him in surprise. I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "You help people become better, don't you?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Then you are serving people." He said, "My job as a minister is to help people improve their lives." He said, "You're doing the same thing." So, in my opinion, hypnotherapy is a spiritual work. I'll leave you with that.
Roy Hunter, everybody. Roy, we know that you have a whole stack of awards and recognitions, and we would like to add one more recognition to your stack of awards. We have here Lifetime Achievement, and it's for the advancement of hypnotherapy and service on the Nghwa board. Thank you, everybody. Give it up. And grab his book. And I got to tell you, I've been doing hypnosis for well over a decade, and reading his book, just basic hypnotherapy, or basic hypnosis even, I'm learning a lot more stuff. So, and I do want to thank you, Roy, for saying some nice things about the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference in June. How many speakers? I know a bunch of people in here are speakers for that. How many people are signed up to speak at that? Yeah, we've got several people signed up to speak at that. If you want more information about that, come see me. I can give you information. I can also get you a ticket and get you all signed up and everything. And with that, lunchtime, right?
Awesome.
Or something else?
I'm gonna turn the recording off,
Okay. Hold on.
and then we're setting up lunch now, so you can take a short break.
All right. Lunch.
What is it?
Drawing? Are you
What's
gonna
it?
do a
Oh, a
drawing?
drawing.
Yeah. Actually,
Like my
let's. I actually am giving away. Anthony Gitch and I are the producers, the co-producers of the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference. It gets a little blurred because I do a lot of different things, and so these are separate enterprises. The Nghwa, this is this, and that is that, but we have a cooperative agreement.
Recording stopped.
So we kind of share marketing resources or something, I'm gonna say it. And we are going to give, Anthony and I are giving away a ticket to the Pacific Northwest Hypnosis Conference. If you already bought your ticket, you get a refund. Woohoo! So here we go. June 8th and 9th, and it's fully transferable. I forgot to bring the voucher, so come see me. I will get your address and we will mail that to you or email it to you, however you like. All right. And the winner is, this is a $13,000 award. Ticket number 602-1265. Yay, Jessica! Good for Jessica! Yay!
Do I need to come up there or no?
Oh, no, you don't have to.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll come back, see you. Oh, did you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're also going to give away one of Roy's books, Hypnosis. Get ready.
Go ahead and
Sorry.
Oh, is it?
602-1262.
All right.
there you go. Great. Okay. She was looking at your book, so she's so happy to. And Roy will sign it for you. Yeah. Good. So go ahead and take a break, and we will. Jody will come up and announce how lunch is being coordinated.
Oh, I'll tell you all.
Oh.
So right now, all of you who did pre-order lunch or bought it here at the door, I'm getting everyone's names on their lunches, so just